Welcome to Bounce Back Stronger, the podcast that explores ways to find peace and purpose no matter what happens. Today's guest is writer, mindfulness teacher, and mental health advocate, Shelley Karpaty. A little about Shelley. Shelley's spiritual path has been shaped by studying with renowned teachers like Jack Kornfield and drawing inspiration from luminaries such as Ram Dass, Krishna Das, and Sharon Salzberg. Through her Substack, Spicy Soul Mama, I love that name, Shelley shares her insights on motherhood, spirituality, neurodiversity, and mental health, offering rare and raw, relatable reflections that resonate deeply with her audience. She also hosts a monthly podcast, leads the memoir track for the writing room, and has been published in outlets like Elephant Journal, The Sun, Business Insider, and LA Yoga. Shelley, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's so good to be with you.
It's so great to see you and be with you too, Donna. Thanks.
Yeah, we reconnected recently at the Writers Rising.
Yes, in LA. Yeah, the writing retreat. That was really wonderful to bump into you. And because we were connected so many years ago through Elephant Journal. So that was such a great surprise.
It was. Maybe tell a little bit about what you're doing with the writing room.
Yeah, so a writing room is an online community of writers at all different levels. And I found it because of this teacher that I connected to named Jacob Nordby. And he was running an online writing community. And then he founded this writing community with Anne Lamott and Julia Cameron. And so I jumped over there and became a member instantly. And it's a wonderful online community with silent writing rooms where we can get together on Zoom and write. There's feedback sessions, there's different classes, and I led a book club track about memoir. We read this book called Deep Memoir by Jennifer Lee Selig, which is amazing, and now she's a teacher in a writing room. So it's just a very supportive, engaging community for writers at all levels who just want to be connected to one another.
I went to the Writers Rising, which was, I guess, how many people were there? It
I think
was,
there might have been like 400 people
yeah,
in person and I think about 1,000 people online.
yeah, it was something. It was a great retreat. I really enjoyed it.
Very, yeah.
Yeah. And I actually think that my favorite part was that last day when we had the time with Anne Lamott and her editor. That was
Jake
so,
Morrissey, yeah.
yeah, that was really helpful, I thought,
Mm.
just to get that feedback and to understand what they look for in terms of editing. I think that was a real help for me.
Yeah, he's a wonderful editor. He just keeps it real and he gets right to the point. It's his life work. I mean, he's been in this industry since out of college, so he knows how to get right to the point. And of course, Anne's narrating of her life, not taking it so seriously, is always a needed breath of fresh air to interject.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really appreciated them together. And then later on, she has a book coming out, I guess, with somebody else, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But a lot of these really, really helpful editing techniques and things to think about as you're writing, a lot of hard knocks kind of things that you would learn over time as a writer long term. So I thought that was a really good exercise too.
Yes.
Well, maybe let's talk a little bit about Spicy Soul Mama, which I think is just the best title. Tell me a little bit about that Substack and your podcast and the
Hmm.
topics that you're tackling. I mean, including motherhood, spirituality, neurodiversity, mental
Yeah.
health, all areas that we hit in this podcast. And I listened to it. It's amazing. I love the thoughtful conversations you're having there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would love to share, which I haven't really done till recently, how and why I named it Spicy Soul Mama. So I have a daughter who's 19 and she named me Mama. Usually we have our children call us mommy when they're little, but she started calling me Mama and I just loved that. And then
Mm.
I write from my soul. I'm a seeker, a spiritual seeker, and of understanding and truth and authenticity. And so that's where the soul comes in. And then the spiciness comes in from my understanding of myself. It has been just something that I have always dove into, whether it be from when I was in corporate to understanding what my Myers-Briggs, letters were, to spiciness, which is Sagittarius, which I am a Sagittarius, and that's fiery. I really wanted to understand who I am and why I am the way I am. I'm just embracing my spiciness of being a truth teller.
I think
And
that's great.
yeah, but I try to not stick my foot in my mouth. And with age, it comes wisdom and knowing when to be quiet and when to speak.
Yeah, it's funny. Took a yoga class this morning, and that was one of the things that she said. She was saying, like, how can we be less? How can we do less? How can we say less?
Hmm.
Which, felt real to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think as a society, we can tend to talk too much. We all can get stuck in our righteousness and our need to be right and our clinging. And I think that it's really important to remember to employ active listening skills, which we
Yeah.
don't know how to do very
Or
often.
shut things off. It's
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
I think, you don't have to come to every party, every trigger that is laid in your path. I had Sharon Salzberg on recently. She said it's okay to be angry. It's okay to
Hmm.
have emotion because I think it's really important. I think especially, a lot of us have felt that we can't have feelings, right? So
Yeah.
it's important to feel them, but not get overwhelmed by that. And that just was such a powerful twist, right? Because
Yes.
because when you get overwhelmed, you can't function the way you want to function. You can't be the person that you want to be. All the stuff that you worked on gets thrown out the window.
Yes, they really can. I'm so excited to listen to that interview. I adore her. Her teaching is so practical and helpful and
Yeah.
real. And one of her books is Real Love.
Yeah.
So she is real and she's so human and she is so accepting and she steps into this curiosity of like, okay, this is my emotion right now, and I'm going to say hi to this emotion. And we do need all of the feelings and to acknowledge them. And I know for myself, when they get overwhelming for me, it's thankfully now because of the practice, I'm able to take a time out and just hang out with it and let it be. But also, it evolves, and remembering, like, I really lean into how everything is impermanent. It will
That's
never
really
stay the
helpful.
same. Yeah.
That's really helpful. Yeah. It forces us to kind of do all the practices, right? To do yoga, which I don't always do yoga with somebody else. I try to do my own practice, and it's just not enough. Sometimes you need
Right.
somebody to have those words of wisdom in the front of a class.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just, whereas other days I wouldn't do it. I would just say I'm too busy to put
Right.
this time in for me.
Yes, especially being a teacher, like you teach yoga, right? So it's like you have to really fit it into to practice. And I teach mindfulness, and so I have to also remember to have my own practice to do
That's
it
right.
before I go teach. I make sure that I have at least 10 minutes to myself in the morning and have my rituals so that I can be ready to hold space, which is no small feat. So holding space for everybody, we can forget to be there for ourselves.
Yeah, my therapist keeps saying you need to stop being there for everybody else. You need to be there for yourself. It's
Yeah.
funny. I mean, she's just really just getting in my face about it, to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
honest.
She's
Yeah.
saying, yes, you need to do this. I see you. You need to do this.
Well, and then I take a class and she says, can you do less? I'm like, okay, well, how many times do I have to get this like banged on my head?
I know.
So maybe to talk a little bit about what inspired you to become a spiritual practitioner and also teacher.
Yeah, I think it started over 10 years ago when I went to my first Ram Dass retreat on Maui, and I was introduced to Sharon and as one of a teacher, and Jack Cornfield and Trudy Goodman and a whole slew of wonderful people that brought these practices west. And I had that under my belt for a couple of years, and then my son at the age of 14 had a mental health break,
Mm.
and it became really apparent that I needed this community and these practices. I've been on this journey with his, I call it neurodivergence because I don't like to put labels on things. And there is such a stigma around neurodivergence and mental health, and even those things are labels. But it was a really tumultuous about 3 years of hell pretty much like being in the underworld and the hero's journey. So I kept on leaning into the practices. That's when I started writing again, and when I engaged with Elephant Journal and started to find my own voice within the hell, basically.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and then I just kept on going and trying to merge all of the things that I kept on learning. And then when the pandemic hit, I started leaning into, because we go on these retreats and we go on the, learn these things, and then we come home and we don't do them. And so
Hmm.
so when the pandemic hit, for me, it was actually a blessing because I lost my job and the contract ended. And so I was at home and I'm like, what am I going to do? Well, all of a sudden my creativity blossomed, and it was like it was dormant in my soul for so long. So I started creating classes. I started meditating every day. I entered in Jack Cornfield and Tara Brach's mindfulness certification program. So I really started to lean into those practices and started to teach, and I just love it. And it's just really a part of who I am, and hope that people will also be the change that they wish to see in the world. So that's really my, like, one of my mantras is I just want to be the change I wish to see.
So you've gone through some difficult times with your son,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had some struggles with one of my children too. I'm curious, like, what would you say to somebody who's struggling with a child that's having neurodivergent challenges?
Mm-hmm.
And I do some work at my day job around mental health advocacy
Mm-hmm.
and neurodiversity in the workplace. What would you say to a parent facing some of these challenges with their kid?
Yeah, I do get a lot of phone calls from parents. I really enjoy talking to parents one on one to just acknowledge and witness what they have been going through. I've done a lot of interviews with mothers whose children have struggled with the mental health system for
Mm.
a long time, have been in and out of ERs and been arrested and just gone down a really dark path of multiple medications, overprescribing of meds. It can be very dark. And so, what I always say to parents is I try to meet them where they are and acknowledge everything that they've been through and say, let's just keep finding the resource and keep coming back to yourself of your own intuition and curiosity so that you will guide yourself in the right way to help your children. And also to remember that there's more than one way to approach a problem or an issue with your children, and witness them as oftentimes these kids or anyone who has these challenges, there's a lot of shame that goes with it. And so trying to be the light for your child can get really tiring. I look at pictures of my child when he was young, and I remember his young innocent light, and he's still in there. And so, like,
Yeah,
these kids aren't doing this to punish us. Even if there's addiction, they're tortured souls, and we
yeah.
need to keep finding the answers. And so I really provide them with hope and direction to other resources other than mainstream, because each person is unique and each solution is unique, and there is no one right answer. So I just really talk to them and give them guidance of other resources other than not just going to NAMI. NAMI is a
Hmm.
drug, is a pharmaceutical funded organization. So they're only going to be pushing drugs. Well, how about mind, body, spirit? How about holistic practitioners? How about blending diet and other things with your path? So, yeah.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. That's so well put. Really
Mhm.
appreciate that. And I think that'll be really helpful to a lot of folks that are listening because you're right. There's a lot of shame in it for the child and for the parent.
Yeah.
And then if you have a child with these challenges, autism, bipolar, schizophrenia, all of those names, they can't communicate as well as would be helpful, right? So,
Right.
so
Right.
you're
It's
kind of
true.
facing that too, that
Yeah.
you
Finding
aren't
the
able
words.
finding the words and knowing that maybe they don't want to communicate or they don't want to
Yeah.
connect. That's really hard.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, my son is very isolated. He doesn't have the words, he doesn't
Hmm.
have the communication skills to say how he's feeling.
Hmm.
And it's something that I'm still struggling with and trying to pull out and trying to find resources to help him do that, to feel safe. Because There's so many in my son's situation that I would imagine that would be other people's situation, is that in a normal, like, quote, normal life, you have people that come in and out of your life, and it's a normal transition. There's situational friendships, there's friendships that just end, dissipate naturally, new ones come in. Well, to him, his view is that they've abandoned him, that he's tried, and he's tried so much, and then they're like, you're too much, I don't get it, and he's just starving to be friends with
Connected.
people,
Yeah.
connected, and now, so now he doesn't try. So it's like, he tries when he can, but it's, yeah, it breaks my heart. But I'm not going to give up. I'm still going to try to help him forge connections with places. So like, if he goes to play magic, so like even just this one thing, like finding one little thing that your kid can hang on to, and finding a group of like-minded people. Like Magic the Gathering is this card game that he still loves playing, and so there's young adult groups that play it at stores. So he does that once a week. So
That's great.
that's been really wonderful. No friendships
Yeah.
out of it, but going and being social is
Going.
great.
Yeah. And one of the things I've been thinking about is like with this charged environment that we're in, maybe this gives us an opportunity to find more connections, to get more opportunities to connect, and hopefully that'll work for our kids too. Like
Yeah,
it's not just around politics, right? It can be just that
right.
it raises the level of interest and connection in general, because which is certainly, I mean, loneliness was an epidemic according to the Surgeon General before the pandemic. It's not gotten any better.
Right.
And so I'm hopeful that maybe we get somewhere with connection in this next phase of our lives,
Yeah.
especially hopefully for our kids.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've gone to so many different parent support groups and just finding them, and they are out there. There's a lot of small nonprofit community organizations that are doing tremendous things. So that's what I do. I just send people like, hey, there's this organization. For me, this organization called Mad in America has been a really
Mm.
wonderful resource for me. They use science, psychiatry, and social justice are their three pillars. And so they have a lot of really great background. They have a wonderful podcast of information, and some of it is like way out there for me, but a lot of it is very helpful information. And Robert Whitaker, who's the founder of it, he wrote this tremendous book all about the pharmaceutical companies and how detrimental it's been to our mental health. So I've actually been afraid to read that book because I sometimes I'm like, I don't want to know what I don't know because it's too
Yeah,
big. It's just too
I know.
big.
It'll just mess me up. Yep. I
Yeah.
get it. I do totally get it. I totally get it. That's really helpful. I'm going to look that one up. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I have a bunch of journalistic pieces that I've written for them, interviewing mothers that have had extreme circumstances around mental health with their children. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be good to talk to other mothers about that, I think
yeah,
for sure. It must be
yeah.
really helpful for you, I would think.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. And this is a really cosmic synchronicity around Mad in America. So when I entered the mindfulness program, the certification, there's a lot of people that are like, it's a global program, and they put you in mentor groups that are small. And so basically it's based on your time zone and the times that you can meet. Well, I'm put together, there might be maybe like 600 to 800 people in the cohort, and I was put with this six group of people. And one of the women she was a therapist based in New Mexico who runs the parent support groups for Mad America. And we had very similar stories, and our sons were diagnosed with the same thing. So
Wow.
I was like, how perfect is that? So I think it's really important to remember that when you're open to being curious, there are those synchronicities of support also that are helping to connect you. And so that was just one of the many synchronicities throughout. Like the more that I lean into the practices and the more that I surrender to the unseen and to the divine and to so many things that are beyond our visual, but in our bodies, feeling when something is right, when you get goosebumps, when you're reading something and then you start seeing the same thing over and over again. You know, like when you're going to buy a car and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get a red Prius, and then all of a sudden you see red Priuses everywhere. So it's the
Mhm.
same thing with spirituality and synchronicity, is that the more that you surrender to God, the more you'll see the support. And even though you're going through really a lot of difficulty, you just have to surrender as much as you can because we're not in control as much as I mean, think
We
we
would
are.
like.
Yeah.
We would like. That's really, really, really beautiful and probably really needed, at least needed by me for sure.
Mhm.
W- As we come to a close here, what did I miss in asking, or what do you want to share before we go?
Yeah, well, I would just love to invite people to subscribe to Spicy Soul Mama and reach out if they want help with resources. I also really would love to help mothers tell their stories. And I have a writing workshop that I run. It's a free writing workshop. I'm still kind of playing with the marketing of it, but let's just call it a free writing class because I do believe that mothers have a lot of wisdom and they need to tell their stories and they need to reclaim their individuality and their sovereignty, despite the fact that whatever it is that they're going through. So, in any case, yeah, I would just love to continue the conversation with other moms.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll have those links in the show notes for the podcast. Thank you
Yeah,
so, so much
thank you.
for this time and for all your wisdom. I really learned a lot today and just so good to be with you.
It's so great to be with you too, Donna. I'm so grateful to be connected and to continue after this.
Me too. Me too. Thanks. That's all for today. If you want to learn more about Shelley's writing, spiritual offerings, and Substack, those links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. If it was, please subscribe, drop a review, or share it with your friends and family. That's the best way to get it in the hands of those who may benefit. And if my daughters Sienna and Sylvia are listening, I want you to know how proud I am of you, and I love you so much. Bye now.